This may be our aims. We try to promote our cluster research cluster, which I think is going well accordance with the SDG of the United Nations. We have a few things. Of course, we cannot circle the whole things, but doesn't mean that we are not take part in other things, in other SDG goals. Right? We try. I will go fast. Right? This may be what we're going to do. We have an innovation, but innovation will be just a vision. Is just that they want to be a startup, of course. Why now? Young generation, they move forward that, but we try to support some innovation that the ideas must be originate from the heart full of need to drive the society to be better society and promoting better quality of life of the community. That's what the innovation that we try to put them. Of course, one day there will be business, there will be a startup, there will be exit, a spin-off to be a big company. But they will be proud that what they do at the beginning is come from their heart, that they want to change the society. Right? For example, I have 2 or 3 examples. A real bus. Right? It starts from that. A student want to know where is the status of the campus bus. We have a campus bus running around the campus. Sometimes they have to wait for a long time that the bus not coming. Instead, if they know the status, they walk maybe faster. So they generate this application called real bus. Right now, they try to make it being a startup. Right? But originally, they come from the concept, the idea that they want to make a quality of life better for the student. Right? The titanium bond also, right now they try to spin off to be a company. But the original concept they come from, they want Thai people to be able to access to a cheaper and better titanium bond for cancer patients. Right? If we buy it from abroad, it will be very expensive and cannot be customized. We have Sathon model, which I think I haven't had time to address all of that. I will go. Finally, the aims. Aim is we try to, of course, right now, Thai society is very negative society. We are negative sum, definitely. Right? And how could Faculty of Engineering being a part to promote the society to be a net zero society? Our campus bears it. The whole campus trying to move forward that. But finally, in long term, right, we probably would like to, we have to adopt ICT. Digital will come in for sure, right? We have to have local engineering solutions and trying to solve a very highly complex system. Right? A system is very complex and very integrated and coupled. Right? We cannot solve one thing. We cannot solve civil engineering, we cannot solve environmental engineering alone and to be sustained. So it will be a highly complex system. Right? And hopefully we can be a partner with European Union or even with any partner to make Thai society to be a positive. Right? It may take 10 years, 20 years, or a century from now. We don't know. Right? And being more participatory. I think participation is very important. Community have to have more participation. Right? University and level students have to have more participation. Not only come and study and get the grade and then graduate. They have to have participatory. We hope that this is the final aim of our faculty, being a partner to move a society, to move Thai to be a positive and participatory society in the future. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Sokot, for your thought-provoking intervention. Personally, I think forward in the SDGs. And I think you also hold the key to a target audience, which is students and youth, and not least children. Thank you very much. So now we'll start the screening of the panel discussion from the EDD in Belgium that took place last week. You'll see 3 speakers. First you'll have Professor Jeffrey Sachs, already introduced by Mr. Jerome Ponce. Then there is a young entrepreneur from Bangladesh. Her name is Ms. Tasneem. And we included her in this presentation because we thought that not only is she extremely young, but she's also a very dedicated person who has a lot of good views on how to create entrepreneurship. And then finally, Professor Yunus, who is also Bangladeshi and the inventor of microfinance. I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you very much. Okay. This was a very summary of a much longer debate in Brussels. I think the red thread, if you want, of both the keynote speak this morning and of the 3 interventions in the panels is really that if we continue along the lines that we're going today in terms of innovations, education, consumption, we are headed for disaster. So we need to disconnect, as Professor Jonas said, from all of this conventional thinking and create new ideas, new business, new interventions, and innovations that can solve problems. To quote Professor Sachs, and I think he is perfectly right, the SDGs were drafted to solve problems, to create that linkages between how we solve climate change, environmental challenges, job creation, education, and health issues all at the same time. The key line is that we all matter and that we can all make a contribution to change. And while we ponder how to do this, let's have a cup of coffee and then we can come back and have our own panel discussion and discuss a bit more about how we can do this in Thailand. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hope you had a good coffee and good discussion on the videos that you have seen before. We will now have our panel discussion with our panelists here, and I will just take 1 minute to introduce them very briefly, and I will leave it to you to present yourself a bit more if you feel like it. We start on my left, Miss Vilasini. She is working for GIZ, for the German International Cooperation, as a project co-director for a project on green freight, which is actually funded by the German as well as by the European Union. And Ms. Vilasini will come and give you a little bit of a development partner perspective on the subject we want to discuss today, which is SDG and small medium enterprise or small businesses. Then we have Professor Surichai. Professor Surichai is basically a professor at the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at Chulalongkorn. And for the sake of the discussion today, all is been prepared. I understand we have a PowerPoint presentation coming up. And that's basically more the university / civil society perspective on the same subject. Then we have another presentation that we expect from, I am lost in my paper, from Mr. Tuniyawat. Apologies for that. You are Assistant Managing Director for Saijo Denki, which is a leading air conditioner manufacturer in Thailand. And this is a big deal in Thailand because there is a massive production of air conditioning here. So we will hear from you a little bit on, again, your perspective on SDG and small medium enterprises. PowerPoint presentation as well. All set, very good. And then we will conclude with Dr. Chanatip from the Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at the faculty here in Chulalongkorn. Thank you for hosting this debate, and we look forward to hear from you right after that. Okay. So if I may, I will just open up with you now. We start from here. We go all the way, and just maybe as a first comment or what you take from the presentation that you have seen before from Mr. Sachs, from Mr. Yunus, and your general perspective on these linkages between SDG and small medium enterprise or small businesses. Thank you.
So first of all, I would like to say thank you for the European Union and Chulalongkorn University for inviting me to being here as a speaker, sharing my experiences with all of you. My name is Vilasini Punutapai, working as a project co-director for the EU-funded project on green freight, working on the freight transport and logistics in the Mekong region. Mekong meaning that covering 5 countries in this region: Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Laos, and Cambodia. Of course, previous project also working with a lot of SME on the automotive sector, 500, 600 SME. So in terms of experiencing working with SME, I think most of you have heard about from presentation, from the opening remark by the Dean of Faculty, that in terms of industrial structure, so 80%, 90% dominated by SME. They are very powerful in terms of producing good for us. But of course, look at the structure. Normally, may I give some example from automotive industry? It's a kind of the pyramid where the SME on the in the last line, but they are, I think, 1,000 SME that produce at the 3rd tier, while the first tier only just 9 companies that dominant or the market. So in terms of making the change, I think SME that should be engaged into the what you call the change process. I would say that in Thailand, let's talk about case in Thailand, because I'm not familiar with global SME, but in terms of Thailand, I would say that we have to consider sector by sector. I think in terms of food sector, there are quite a lot of SME or producer that quite aware and well educated about the climate change, environmental or energy issue. But in some sector like automotive or computer chip production, still I would not complain about that. I'm suffer for 5 years working with them, how I can raise the awareness or education among of them. But when I gave up, my boss at that time told me that, Vilasini, we are making the change, and the change is the processes. It takes many years. So we are at the starting point. Of course, that we starting today, maybe 10 years, 20 years, until we see the result of the process. But never give up on that. But if we don't start today, so they will have no future, for sure. But even we start today, and I love some motto or the quote from my boss that when we talking with the Chiang Mai governor, maybe 10 years ago, when we start the new project on small city. And we want to pilot Chiang Mai and Korat as a small clean air small city. And at that time, the Chiang Mai governor told me that, Vilasini, you cannot do in Thailand because the Thai people lack of discipline. They are very easy, they don't want to change, they're lazy. It's not like the German people that, okay, how they behave. And then my boss at that time told the Chiang Mai governor that, okay, the German people normally doesn't born with the discipline. Discipline had to be built. Then I think that, okay, for our young generation, then like you, they had to be built in the right way. In terms of accessibility, don't talk about like this in university. The people who live in the Ram Chabang, in Rayong, in Chonburi area where our SME located, so they're still far away from what we call SDG. They might ask us that, what does it mean for us? So when we talking with them, we have to make the message more simply or simple to understand in that sense. I cannot say, okay, you have to save the energy. You have to save the world because currently we have no energy enough for everybody. How many SME that they know we have to buy the gas from Myanmar? How many SME that they know that currently we buy electricity from hydropower plant from Laos? So most of them, when they have the problem, they always ask the government, hey, I pay the tax. And then the government, your responsibility to support us, to secure energy for us. But they never look at themselves that normally they are a part of the problem. They are the causes of the problem as well. So I think I do not want to blame all of SME, but at least I think in some sector, they are quite aware of this and they have to start with themselves first. Don't just ask from the government to support them. One concept that I was used during working with automobile or automotive sector that we work with the supply chain model, working with the big car maker because GIZ or the Thai government, normally we are the outsider. It's a project had the duration, we have the 4-day, 5-day project. After project end, I quit. I have to move to another project. Of course, that the one who still in the sector is our SME and the private sector. So at that time, I tried to think how we can make it the sustain because we are the outsider, we cannot live with them forever. So one thing that we engage the big car maker, either from Japanese car maker like Toyota, Honda, or from European country like Volkswagen, from BMW or from Mercedes-Benz, because Thailand is a hub of car production. It's the Detroit of Asia. At that time, it's promoted like that. So, make the market oriented. I still believe in that. For Thailand, I think we cannot go back to the 20 or 40 years ago, but we have to, I think in terms of accessibility, make the market driven, market drive itself. For example, I don't know how many person here knowing about green labeling. It's a Thai green label, our own. I know how many person that use the label as a choice when you buy the product. No, still some people say no. Great to know. But I think it takes many years for Thai green label to for being well known. At least I think some people start compared to the first year. No one knows that. Of course, that in terms of car, in terms of product, is the same that we try to use the market in the first period. Government might have to help in terms of providing a subsidy or attribute the mechanism which can drive the market. But in the long run, I would say that I would like to see that market itself can sustain. The people aware, like some people, I think they talk that in the video that don't just when something happens, don't just blame the producer. That okay, you use a lot of electricity, you throw a lot of waste in the ocean, the plastic bag, blah blah blah. But normally, individual person as a consumer, you have your responsibility to take that kind of problem as well. So when you make the choice, when you buy, when you go to the supermarket, then you have the choice to select, okay, 7-Eleven, I don't want the bag. I have my own cotton bag with me. You can do very small action. I still believe in the small action of individual people, which normally at the end, the accumulate of the small action can generate the greater impact. But you have to believe in that first. Otherwise, okay, I just very small people live in this planet. How I can contribute to the climate change? Normally, individual people contribute more or less on the climate change issue, and you can help normally. So I think in Thailand with the SME, we have to still working a lot in order to educate them and involve many stakeholders. SME itself cannot make a lot of change if without any environmental enabling system. So you have to map the stakeholder in the landscape. It's a government, it's a SME, the car maker, the tier one, or the exporter, or maybe a supplier, a material supplier. Map them into the landscape of working, and then I think individual can have their own role in order to encourage the successful implementation. So you have to think in the holistic or systematic system to achieve that, how we can make SME to achieve. You can talk about microfinance, but of course microfinance may not relevant to Thailand, but you have to think in another model, working with the formalized bank. Like in Thailand, we have the SME development bank, or even some private commercial bank. Currently, they started working with the SME, for example, Kasikorn Bank or Siam Commercial Bank. So a lot of loans that currently try to encourage SME to improve their sustainable production. So I think it depends on the country. From country, you cannot like have one fit to all, but you have to look at case by case. Even in Thailand, from the north to the south, also they have different culture. The people in the south, the people in the north. So when you decide any activity or intervention to intervene the change process of that kind of community, you have to understand their culture, understand their system, and map the stakeholder landscape well, putting the role of each function, and then I think the role will moving well. And don't forget, lastly, that it never ends, believe me, because when you talk about sustainability, it doesn't mean like I'm taking care for 4-year project, and I think after 4 years everything will super. But normally it's not end at all, because the development is a rolling process. Today you did this thing successfully, but they will have a lot more problem, a new obstacle coming. So I think it's a rolling, so don't give up about that. Even I'm here for 20 years and then still a new problem coming every year. So it's a rolling, it's a cycle, it's a process. So take time, and then you are a part of, I think all of you, don't underestimate yourself that you cannot make change. So you, just individual person, can make the change, but start with yourself first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you have some good point on the long-term approach, the role of the consumers, the issue of awareness raising. I think you raised also the value chain, something that was mentioned in the video before, so we can have some time to discuss that right after. Professor Surichai, please.
Thank you, Jerome. It is an honor to be a part of this 60 year of EU Development Day. This is a celebration. But the world is so imbalanced. How can EU and Thailand engage in this very imbalanced world? I have maybe some PowerPoint, but I will just use maybe 2 slides. I will rush. The first is the imbalanced world includes even the unpredictability of politics, like in the US. So, although we have this imbalance, but we also had a very hopeful commitment for SDG in that context. So how can we understand this world? And how can we see Thailand a part of this context? it was very hopeful to listen to Vilasini. We are small people, but we still can do something. But the world is also a big question for us to put ourselves in that context. So just to yes. How in this very big geography of Asia century and America and Middle East and Europe, can we see Thailand in that context? So, but provided we understand this, I think the hopeful language, that message we get from Kun Vilasini is that everyone can have a role. So the question is, how can we bring the scales of our feeling and thinking from individual level, linking with the global, linking with the broader, and how that can be a part. What I learned from the video relates to this. The young girl from Bangladesh, she was struck by industrial disaster called fire, industrial fire, in 1913, where more than 1,000 women workers died in the fire. The collapse of Rana Plaza, it happened 1 year after what we had our own industrial disaster called Keder industrial accident. In that fire, we lost 170 women workers. But what the trigger of the disaster triggered the hearts and the minds of a woman, like a young woman, like the lady from Bangladesh, as well as trigger the people who are devoted to work for small industries in Thailand, including the ladies who are fired from that kind of industrial disaster affected, and they start their own small home, family business or home business. Later, it came out as new understanding of a new enterprise, new type of enterprise called, maybe someone in this room set up a home network. So I think this relates to the second point where Mr. Yunus helped us to understand that the way we understand actor in change need to be moved away from only the big companies, which they are important, but if you only think about the big companies, you don't see the meaning, the action of the smaller and meaningful context of transformation at many levels. So in that sense, I think Mr. Yunus help the world to open the eyes to the new possibility of finance, but not big finance, but microfinance, and the role of women who are not often looked at as a meaningful actor in the very, for example, like Bangladesh is a Muslim country. So the forces are from the marginal. So in that sense, I learned from the video that helped me to feel that the scales of thinking and feeling need to be grounded in the reality of what we are facing in each societies. Thailand had it, and Bangladesh also show us something meaningful. So the problem is how to overcome the perception gaps of people looking at the big ones only. They don't see the small ones. How can we see the role of small business, small people in the changing future of our society and the world? That is a big challenge. So we cannot only hope for academic research to move the hearts and the minds. We need the people who really have feelings, who really can be